Belize and our relationships with the people of Belize gets more special with every trip. This time we mixed in a bit of tourism by slipping over to Guatemala to explore Tikal, the largest Mayan ruin in Central America. It's an awesome site of immense size, although only about 20% of it has been uncovered to date. The pyramids and temples are quite breathtaking, with no shortage of human sacrifice sites throughout the plaza. When we visit Belize, we make our base Belize City, although it is not a tourist destination as such. There really is not much to do there for tourists other than as a hopping off point to other neat destinations like ruins, the Keys, dive sites, and jungle lodges. People, however, are fantastic. We've made some good friends in Belize, mainly through Rotary. We've gotten involved with helping some single moms and their families, and believe me, there are lots of them. This is Cisco Woods, whom we've gotten to know well. He's a main facilitator with the houses we build there. He's a Rotarian, owner of Cisco Construction, a major road builder in Belize that his father founded. He has a unique business philosophy that is paying huge dividends to the Society of Belize. Whenever possible, he'll maximize the use of manpower to increase employment, such as building concrete roads instead of asphalt, and using barrel mixers and wheelbarrows and shovels instead of ready-mix trucks. Being connected to the prison and its rehabilitation programs, which I'll come back to, he hires ex-convicts and gang members with extremely positive results. His father, John Woods, is the head of Colby Foundation that operates the prison, and since taking it over, the recidivism rate has dropped from 73% to 23%. Cisco is also owner of Old Belize, about the only tourist attraction in Belize City, frequented by cruise ship passengers. It has a marina, man-made beach and water park, fine museum, restaurant and bar, outdoor stage, picnic area, and more. With him, we visited the families we helped build houses for, as well as a number of others that Rotary has built. This is Delphine, and the home she shares with her son and 3 grandchildren. Her daughter is an addict, whom she tries to protect the grandchildren from. Cisco employs her as an inventory manager at one of his work sites. She got to move into her new house provided by Rotary just the weekend after we left. This photo, with the lady's knees you see on the right, is a great-great-great-grandmother, with her and her descendants living in a Rotary-built house. This is Catherine. She is a wheelchair-bound with sickle cell disease and was living in an abandoned house with 3 sons, one suffering from cerebral palsy, hoping that the owner wouldn't find out that she was living there. Cisco found out about her case from a fellow church member and got the house built, complete with all utilities and special appliances and counters at lower heights to accommodate her wheelchair. Cisco also managed to find her this extra-wide electric wheelchair, so her young son with cerebral palsy can ride alongside with her. This is Stephanie and her family, whose house was the first one we were involved with. She's an exemplary mother, working 7 days a week to pay her oldest daughter's college tuition and trying to figure out how to buy her a laptop for school. We solved that problem for her while we were there. Her daughter is in first year's nursing. At the same time, Stephanie is saving up for her second daughter's tuition, who will be studying social work after she graduates high school next spring. Her oldest son is apprenticing as an automotive mechanic while completing high school. This is a family that's doing everything it can to work its way out of the ghetto. We spent an evening with her and the family. Cisco had set up an evening at Old Belize for all of us. The kids had never roasted marshmallows or been to anything like Old Belize before. The group photos were taken at the performance stage. This is Antonia, who lives in Orange Walk Town, about an hour's drive north of Belize City. She ended up being a single mom after kicking her husband out of the home, who had alcohol and anger management issues. This ended up with the 3 older children in foster care. So her new home has permitted the family to be together again, except for the dad. He's in prison, which brings me to the next phase of our Belize visit, the tour of the Central Prison. This next video segment is John Woods, Cisco's dad, who is the head of the Colby Foundation, a non-profit that runs the museum. I'll get back to Antonio's husband and his situation after John's segment.
involvement in prison started in January of 2001. The company I'm working with was building the road in front of the prison. And the minister of prisons at that time was my wife's first cousin. One day I got a call and he says, hey, listen, he says, I would very much like some help in managing that prison. He said, I'd like you to form a group of businessmen and chair them and have an advisory board and advise on the management of it. And for some reason I said, sure. And we went in there for a tour and we were absolutely appalled. It reminded me as a kid reading The Tale of Two Cities and reading about the Bastille, where there were just inhuman conditions. There were up to 12 people in an 8-by-10 cell. There were 900 people there and there were 300 beds. The other people slept on the floor. And if there was room enough to sleep on the floor. There was no maintenance, the roofs leaked, the water came in the windows and the floors were wet. So they would put cardboard out and that would get damp, you know. Just totally inhumane conditions. There was no potable water. That kind of says everything right there. But the thing that struck me the most was the people themselves, you know. You'd look at them and like they had given up. There was nobody home, what I call dead eyes. There was nobody looking back at you, and that's scary because most of these people serve their time and get back out. And do you really want that type of a person back out on the streets with your family and your loved ones and your friends and your community? So we got really upset about what we saw. And I noticed that when I was in there, they showed me great respect, you know. Everybody would stand at attention and they'd say, you know, they would listen to what we said and they'd give me reports and everything. But then you could see they were just waiting for me to leave, and then it would be business as usual. So I asked the minister, I said, if I hire a guy to represent me in there, would that be okay? And then he would have the same authority as me, be able to investigate and see what's going on. He said, sure. So I got this guy that was a real savvy guy, a black belt guy, a lot of common sense and a lot of energy, and he went in there and he started giving me reports. And the reports were atrocious. The amount of corruption and cruelty. And every time I saw the Prime Minister after that, I would give him a report. And finally, I think in frustration, he says, why don't you just take the prison over and run it yourself? And really, you know, I figured we couldn't do any worse than what was happening, so I said, sure. And we formed a board. We named it we set it up as a non-profit foundation. And then got the board. I went to the Rotary Club and I said, hey guys, we got a chance to really do something special with our time. And 6 of us formed this Kolbe Foundation. We chose the name Kolbe because he was a priest in Poland that went to Auschwitz, was thrown in jail in Auschwitz and gave his life there for another prisoner and eventually became a saint, kind of a patron saint of prisons. So we chose his name, the Kolbe Foundation. And we, in August of 2002, we took over the management of the prison. And we didn't have any civil servants in there. Everybody that worked there, was employed there, was an employee of the Kolbe Foundation itself. So they were answerable to us. And we went in there. One of the first things we did was we tried to fix the food. We got a pipeline in from the closest community and had potable water there. The other thing that we did after the food is we set up a PA system because of communications and the rumors that took place in there. Nobody knew what was going on. So we set up a PA system, and that eventually evolved into a radio station type scenario. One of the guys that was in the max part of the prison had this aptitude to be a DJ, and he was a born-again Christian. He had found the Lord in prison. And he started running this PA system like a radio station. He'd start it in the morning with the national anthem, and then we'd have the national prayer, and we have psalm readings. And we'd get like guys like T.D. Jakes, Billy Graham, Bishop Sheen from St. Louis, I think the first televangelist, Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking. And we'd give those messages all the time throughout the day. And it really started having a profound effect. We were always, and then we kept the popular music, but we just had a group come through that had changed the lyrics of popular songs that were kind of rude and rough into Christian lyrics. And so we started transmitting that out to the people. And, you know, with 900 people in there, and we had this PA system blasting, people that were just locked in their cells were receiving the message, you know. And even though you couldn't see it in front of you, it did happen.
The national anthem that is being sung at the end of John's video is part of the daily routine in the 12-step rehab sessions where Cisco introduced us to each of the classes. They have one such classroom in English and one in Spanish. While doing so, he mentioned the house builds we were involved in, including Antonia's, which you've seen. When Cisco mentioned this, one of the inmates raised his hand and identified himself as Antonia's husband. The homes that are provided to the families in need are prefabricated in the prison, providing trades training for the inmates. This one happens to be the one for Delphine. An ever-increasing variety of skills are being taught to better equip the inmates for life after prison, everything from mechanics to casket manufacturing and growing their own food. Here we were approached by a young prisoner displaying his artistic ability. Kind of a talented fellow, I would say. Oh, and one more thing. The Rotary Club capped off our trip with a Paul Harris Award for yours truly, after which Cisco took us for a boat ride from Old Belize up the Saboon River to check out some crocodiles in the mangroves. It just doesn't get any better than that.